On May 20th, 1303, a solemn betrothal took place in Paris. The bride was 7 years old, the groom, who was not present, 19. She was Isabella, the daughter of Philip IV, King of France, he, Edward of Carnarvon, Prince of Wales, the son and heir of Edward I, King of England. The prince had sent the Earl of Lincoln and the Count of Savoy as his proxies, and during the ceremony they formally asked the King and Queen of France for the hand of their daughter, the Lady Isabella, in marriage for the Prince of Wales. Consent was duly given. Then Gilles, Archbishop of Narbonne, the presiding priest, required Isabella to plight her troth. Placing her hand in that of the Archbishop, she duly did so, giving her assent to the betrothal on condition that all the articles of the marriage treaty were fulfilled. This union had been arranged, after tortuous negotiations, to cement a lasting peace between those old warring enemies, England and France. Isabella's father, Philip IV, known as Philip the Fair, was the most powerful ruler in Christendom at that time, and also the most controversial. Not only had he been engaged in territorial wars with both England and Flanders for the past 7 years, he had also, despite boasting the title of Most Christian King, become involved in a bitter conflict with the papacy, after imposing limitations on the Pope's authority in France. This was to lead to his excommunication, only months after his daughter's betrothal. Philip's war with Edward I was the result of a long-standing feud over England's possessions in France. In the 12th century, through the marriage of Henry II to Eleanor of Aquitaine, the empire of the Plantagenets, the dynasty that Henry founded, had extended from Normandy to the Pyrenees, while the royal domain of France had been limited to the regions around Paris. By 1204, Henry's son, King John, had lost most of the English territories, including Normandy, to the ambitious Philip II, Augustus of France. And there were further French encroachments under John's son, Henry III, as successive French monarchs sought to broaden their domain. By the time of Edward I, all that remained of England's lands in France was the prosperous wine-producing duchy of Gascony, the southern part of the former duchy of Aquitaine, along with the counties of Ponthieu and Montreuil, which had come to the English crown through the marriage of Edward I to Eleanor of Castile in 1254. Philip IV, who was vigorously carrying on his predecessor's expansionist policy, unsurprisingly had his eye on Gascony, and in 1296 he invaded and took possession of it. There were 2 ways to settle a conflict: by military force or by diplomacy. Edward I wanted Gascony back, and Philip wanted to drive a wedge between Edward and the Flemings, who were uniting against him. By 1298, the 2 kings were engaged in secret negotiations for a peace. Then Pope Boniface VIII intervened. In the spring of 1298, he suggested a double marriage alliance between France and England. His plan was that Edward I, a widower since the death of Eleanor of Castile in 1290, marry Philip's sister Marguerite, while Edward's son and heir, the Prince of Wales, be betrothed to Philip's daughter Isabella, then 2 years old. Once this peace had been sealed, Gascony could be returned to Edward I. Boniface's suggestion appealed to both parties. It conjured up for Philip the tantalizing prospect of French influence being extended into England, and his grandson eventually occupying the throne of that realm. And, for Edward I, it promised the return of Gascony and a brilliant match for his son. As the daughter of the King of France and the Queen of Navarre, Isabella was a great prize in the marriage market. No Queen of England before her had boasted such a pedigree.